What's up?
What up, player?
Nothing much. Living life, as they say.
Moving in and out of places, huh?
Yeah, I moved out yesterday. Moved out yesterday, back home for
Does
the
that
month.
bring you does
Basically,
that bring you some sadness or what? Or like you relieved or like
I
can we
took
take it
what moving out or having to go through that process.
either or both?
So yesterday, I told you that I'm very particular in when I move in, move out. My room needs to be done my first night. I'm not the kind of person who falls asleep in a room that's just a mattress on the ground and then I'll just figure it out as the week goes. My room is made and I sleep. You know, and then the rest of the house can be done, But my room is very kind of sacred in that sense. So when I was moving out, I didn't start moving out anything until the day of because I wanted to go to sleep and feel that peace. Like this is my room. Um, but when I was done with everything last night, my room is bare empty, nothing in there. And I just looked at it and I was picturing my room done, you know, and I just had this sense of sadness a little bit just because this was a place that I was there for a whole year. Tally and I had some great experiences there, just because my room I didn't really I spent a lot of time outside of it to a certain extent, but my room was kind of because I had roommates and stuff. So my room is I spent a lot more time than a traditional person would spend in their room. Obviously, I did a lot more things in there. I did more stretching in there and like activities. Um, so I kind of just sat on the ground. And I was just kind of closed my eyes and just I don't know. I kind of did like a little run through of the year for about 2 or 3 minutes, and it was nice. And it was weird, not weird. I basically had my eyes closed, and the last picture I wanted to have of my room was it done. I turned the lights off and I left. Um, but it's always a weird feeling seeing a place you lived in for a year and then seeing it just completely empty. The living room, no couch, nothing. Bathroom's empty, everything's empty. Um, but you know, things are moving forward. I'm just, looking at apartments now for the next month with Tally, or in 2 months, May 1st, and it's that's when the real fun starts. Moving in with her, and Lord knows what kind of challenges that's going to bring.
Yeah, literally.
It's going to
That's
be challenge. It's going to be, hey, but we're both aware of it, and it's those battles you gotta just take on head first, and be better on the other side of it. But there's gonna be challenges, of course. So she's gonna want to fucking kill me. I mean, that's inevitable. Um,
you kind
but
of
I
look
would
like
never.
The Rock right now.
Yeah, you like the color. Like I said, I tried to open it up a little bit to get some
Yeah, but
neck, but it just keeps
Your
closing.
shirt knows need to keep it, close to the chest. That's what it knows.
Yeah, got the nice turtleneck going. Um, but yeah, so that's my life right now. Just back home for a month, and all is good. All is good. How was the game today?
It was really good. Sat through really nice weather, and I mean, it was the first time I've been in a stadium in a long time, as far as like watching
Weird.
professional ball. Yeah, I mean, it was like a little borderline sad because it's like you watch all these guys you played with or against, and you're like, man, like not only did I compete against you, like I dominated you, and
It's a weird feeling, dude.
you're getting to play and continue to play at this level, and it's just like, man, I went down the rabbit hole of what could have been,
Scary place.
isn't it?
Yeah. I was having a conversation last weekend. My sister's boyfriend was over for dinner and my mom's birthday stuff, so they invited his parents. And his dad's a big baseball fan, so he was talking to me about baseball and stuff, whatever. And he asked me if I was a fan, or along those lines. That came up in conversation, and I said, I don't consider myself a fan of baseball, no, because when I was a kid, I looked up and I saw superstars. I saw I saw people that were so much bigger than me and just so good, and they're like basically superheroes to a certain extent, And then now I can't watch a game without seeing a buddy or someone I played against or someone I played with, someone I know fairly well, someone whose parents I know, someone who someone who I had success against. I I just see a bunch of me's. And I mean that not because I deserve to be in the big leagues. I mean it as I just see people like me. And it takes away that whoa feeling. If I watch sports, I like watching it because I feel like I can't do what they're doing. That's why I like watching golf, because I suck at golf and I can't do what they do. I will never be able to do what they do, ever. Now, could you say, oh, you'll never be able to do what Jacob DeGrom does? Yeah, fair. That's why I like watching Jacob DeGrom. So I have no problem watching Jacob DeGrom throw. Those guys are different. But just watching a game, dude, just seeing that's the thing that really got me at the beginning when I retired, man. Seeing my buddies playing, seeing people that I know playing, people that I know I'm better than playing. It's
It's
it's not a
frustrating.
jealousy thing. It's not a jealousy
It's
thing deep down.
frustrating.
Yeah, that's the word. It's not a jealousy thing because it's not something that I have against them. They were blessed with the opportunity to stay healthy, have the opportunities. It is what it is. God bless them.
Yeah.
Um, it's not jealousy. I'm better with it now than I was when I first retired, but it'll never not be weird. It'll
I'll
never
tell
not be
you what,
weird.
like sitting at the game today, they they borderline try to distract you from the game. Like as a fan, like they have so many screens, they have so many nonsense, like they have so much nonsense going on. And like a lot of it is just not directed at the game. And
It's
it's
all. I
just
mean, it's all
if
about the fan experience.
right. But like you go to for me, like I go to a hockey game and like everything is directed at the ice. Like in baseball, I like at Cardinal Stadium today, I just didn't feel like it was directed at the game. Because like
Well,
there's so many things that just are not explained well. Like I don't know hockey at all. Like I don't know the ins and outs of hockey, but I can go to a hockey game and sit there and watch it and be thoroughly enthralled. And I don't know if it's because I know baseball, but now they're putting up like horizontal movement and induced movement, and so it's just like, what are we doing?
yeah. What the fuck is that?
Like, why? Not that the fans shouldn't know the numbers, or not that you shouldn't know the numbers of whatever you're doing, but like, I don't know. Just another. To me, it was just another distraction.
Hmm.
Like to the game itself. Like I would have rather have just been so locked in on what the 18 people were doing on the field.
Yeah.
But instead we're like we got, you know. And that was like my frustration in the minor leagues is they did all those games and all those things on the sideline and like if people want to be engaged, let them be engaged. If people don't want to be engaged, they don't want to be engaged. Like the fan experience is not building a cheeseburger on the first base line. Like I'm sorry.
Brandon said it best. Before I actually signed, I was asking him about. Actually, it might have been after. I forget when it was. He was saying that, man, we're just a bunch of dancing monkeys on that field. That's all we are. And then you have your prospects. I'll never forget that. I will never forget that. I don't know if that's just a really pessimistic way of looking at it, but I'll never forget that. We're just a bunch of dancing monkeys on the field, and then you have your prospects. And
Well,
it's
look at
just
what's
kind of
popping
sad.
off right now. The Savannah Bananas.
Dude, I can't stand that.
Holy cow!
You want to laugh, actually? You want to laugh?
What is that?
Dude, you want to laugh? I have a friend, right? I used to work with her at Lululemon. Good friend. When I got released from the Cardinals, I was home. And so I don't know exactly how I came out of conversation, but she asked me why I was home because I saw her somewhere, I think, or something. And I said, yeah, like I'm not with the Cardinals anymore. Just trying to find a new team. Hopefully it's not too long. And she goes, you need to Wait, don't you go? Can you play for
You'd
the
be
Savannah
perfect.
Bananas?
You'd be perfect for the Savannah Banana.
She literally was like, "You should go play for the Savannah Bananas." I said, "They're not professional baseball." She goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Wait, is this for real? Do people think they're actually professional baseball players?" And that's it. Just that triggered me out. Not triggered me in a bad way. It triggered me like to where I really think about it. People really do think they're professional baseball players, but it's the same idea as the Harlem Globetrotters. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, I mean it is what it is. It's entertainment, and I can't bash on it because they're
It's
doing
just
it and
not
I'm
baseball.
not.
I mean,
But
it's
yeah,
not
it's
baseball.
not.
So I
It's just
mean,
a
I'm
form
not
of
gonna shit on it
entertainment.
either.
It's a
Exactly. That's
form of
all it is.
entertainment. Yeah.
That's all it is. The guy
But
did. I mean, a guy's a masterful businessman. I mean, look at what he
correct.
did. Look
Yeah.
at what he did. But
No.
it's not
Yeah.
baseball. So let's
Coo-
not let's end the conversation that we're going to a baseball game. Okay, it's a theater. It's an amphitheater
yes.
actually. It's an amphitheater,
Correct.
and you have your
Correct.
actors.
Yeah. 100%.
But
But good for them.
yeah, I wonder who is it. A lot of college players or something? Do you have any idea how that works? Because I have zero clue where
Well, I think
how
you actually
the
have to be
process is.
you have to be relatively good to play. Like
Well, I'd imagine they
they
have some type
do.
of skill because they played, but
Yeah, but it's all social media and stuff. I don't know. I've never been. I don't plan on going. Like, I don't. I really don't even want. I want no part of it. I want to know nothing about it. All I know is it's like a lot of social media based stuff, and I'm good on it.
yeah, I agree.
I wish them the best of luck, and they can continue to do what you do. But it just what's that one movie about the circus? Jane B. Barnum or whatever when he creates all the circus and he gets famous or whatever. It's a big movie. It don't
I
matter.
don't know.
It don't matter. Let's dive into.
Greatest
Let's
Showman?
dive. Yeah, there we go. Let's dive into something. That's all it is.
The Greatest Showman. I think no, I didn't watch that. Um, I had a conversation the other day actually. Same night I was saying about my sister's boyfriend's dad. I was talking about my sister's boyfriend's mom, and at the dinner table just talking whatever. And I forget what we're how we got here, right? This isn't a common conversation that I have in my house with like my parents and stuff. They're kind of we don't really talk about this kind of stuff, but she was saying something about you know always needing to move, always not being able to sleep. And once I start hearing that, where it's like my eyes are like this, and my eyes are open at 2 in the morning, and I got to get up and I got to go start doing this and that because my eyes I can't just sit there and be still. I start triggering, and Lucas starts going crazy. It's like, well, what are they not doing? What's going on? I wonder if the shit room in order. I wonder if me just thinking all this shit, and
I got somebody for you to meet, bro.
yeah. You ever read the book We Who Wrestle with God? I think it'd be a great place for you to start. Um, but no, like I was just sitting there listening to her, and one thing led to another. And my mom said a story about when I was a kid and I was playing. I did something and I was just very like focused on the negative rather than the positive. And then it just kind of sparked some conversation about just I was kind of like I can't believe that that's how I acted, whatever. And it somehow got to where, like I said, she said she couldn't sleep and stuff. And um, then I asked her, I said something about meditation, I think, because that's how it came up, whatever. And then she goes, I don't know how you meditate. And I said, well, I mean, I didn't say I don't know how people don't, but I was like, it's changed my life. I wouldn't be who I am without it. I just can't do it. And I was sitting there at the moment. I said, well, I wonder how many people think this way. So instinctively, I said to her, can you read? Not actually, can you read? Or you get literate? I mean, like, can you read a book? She goes, oh my God, I'm a speed reader. And then she said, this is a different thing. We'll talk about this, I guess. She said, I skip 3-letter words or less. I don't read them. I said, okay, I don't even know what the hell that means, but that's how she reads. She skips 3-letter words or less, and she just reads the bigger words, and she just speed reads. She reads like a 500-page book in like 3.5 hours. No idea. So, anyways, though, I said to her, I said, so you can read books. Fine. She said, oh yeah, I love it. I said, okay, well then you can meditate. And she just looked at me. I said, meditation is just putting your mind in one place and keeping it there. It's just the art of like just art of keeping your mind still. In order to keep your mind still, you got to keep your body still, in my opinion. To a certain extent, you can argue, but you have to. Yeah, I think it starts there. I was just like, you can do it. So you just have a problem with stillness rather than meditating. She said yes. I said okay. I think I didn't say I'm not a psychologist. I said, well, I think you need to do this because you know what I mean. I didn't do that, but I don't know. It was one of those moments to where I wonder how many people are like that. People have this weird facade around like meditation. You know, you got to be a monk. You got to be sitting there with your fucking cape on and, pointer finger and thumb together, making these noises. It's not meditation. It is. It's not all forms need to be that way. And we had this conversation last week. So it was one of those moments where I kind of was just in the middle of conversing with her. I just kind of had this weird thought. I said, I wonder how many people are like this. And I just, I don't know. It was kind of cool, because it wasn't. I was within talking to her for 30 seconds. I was able to figure out that it wasn't a meditation. It's not that she can't meditate. She just doesn't want to be still, but she's capable of meditating. So I don't know. I just that happened, and that was interesting. Interesting.
I think like I don't know. Whenever you were telling that story, two thoughts came to my mind. One, slow down reading, enjoy the book. Two,
Fair.
letting go. Like you're reading it so fast, you're not letting anything come. Like you are the distraction. Instead of having a distraction, you are the distraction. Like what are you getting out of reading 3,000 words a minute? Like you're not intaking anything. So like normally like when I read and I read it like a fast pace, like dude, I might as well just start over or never even, not even not even pick it up. But it's
Me
just like
too.
when I'm reading at the pace that I like need to read at or want to read at, like I'll have those thoughts and like they'll come in and all of a sudden I'll be like, man, I missed three sentences. I got to go back to where I. So it's like the art, like in reading, it's that art of letting go, like because like inevitably, like as you're reading, you're gonna be like, oh, like, and then you come back to it, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh
exactly.
shit, like that was the distraction. So like if you can let go of the distraction and not like even though the car goes by, I don't look at it, but I know what happened. I have to pause and stop the stillness, let that distraction go, and then in order to get back into like actually retaining information. So to me, it was like I saw two things. I know you saw the stillness thing, but to me, it was two things of like not letting go of like any distraction or being the distraction and just the pace, the pure pace. Like, why are you in a hurry to read? Why are you in a hurry?
Well, if
I
you're
don't know.
that locked into something, no matter what it is, you don't even notice the distraction, typically.
Correct. Exactly.
You know,
Or
like
you
when you're
don't
in
have
deep
any
meditation, you don't even know what's
distractions.
going on.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
well, not having the distraction is it's easier at the beginning. Like to meditate in a place with distractions, I wouldn't say it's never it's never not hard, but it's definitely easier as you practice like what it feels like when you're in that state. At the beginning, if you're in a place where you hear noises and stuff, it's tough. It's really tough. But it's also not allowing yourself to be distracted. One of my mentor coach at the Cardinals, when he was introducing me to meditating, he said, when you're meditating, he goes, if someone knocks at the door, if your phone rings, if someone's calling your name, you don't answer. Don't let anything get you out of being in your place. It's your time. So if you have to sneeze and something like that, yeah, go for it. But don't let yourself get distracted. Is basically what he was saying. And there's a lot of truth to that. Obviously, eliminating distraction in anything because it's just a distraction. We kind of talked about the same thing last week. We can be the distraction.
I want to get your thoughts on like letting go or like the art of letting go, how like a how to let go, or what your process is to let go of like distracting thoughts or negative thoughts or even positive thoughts or ideas or anything.
So letting go, I mean, kind
So
of went over it
like
last week with like the blowing away.
yeah, but more or less like you're in the middle of doing something like you're saying that that the act of blowing away in anything, whether you be reading, whether you be driving, whether you be
Hmm.
meditating,
Yeah.
or just blowing it
Um,
away is your act of letting go.
I think though I wouldn't have found that if I didn't find my place. Like when I meditate, for example, when I started meditating, I kind of, in order to put myself in a place, in a mindset, I kind of had to create a place in my mind that I went to. And essentially that's the self sitting at the core of my being. That's how I view it. As as as
Say it
I don't
again.
know how. So basically, like in the thing that I really liked about Untethered Soul is when he said this, it made me think of what I just said. So basically, the self is in the back of your brain, just sitting there, experiencing life through the lens of your eyes. We're not experiencing life. It's the self inside of us who's experiencing life through our body, through our eyes. So anything that happens to us, it's not hurting us. It's not pissing us off. It's how we perceive it. It's basically, if you look at pain, for example, is a better way to put it. Pain, it's not hurting us. It's just discomfort. It's hurting the body. But we are in control of how we decide to outlet that. So when I cold showers, for example, when it was a struggle at the beginning, but when I came down to when I really understood the idea that this is just my body. I'm not cold. My body's cold. When I like kind of when I separated them, I started to not even be phased by it. And it's a weird, I can't explain it. And then you start shivering, of course. You have this physiological response when that happens. But even then, it's just I get annoyed. It's just like you're shivering, but it's like I'm not cold. I'm not cold. I'm not cold. Why am I shivering? You know what I mean? But I can't explain it. Um, but get back to what I was saying. When I yeah, just the internal battles of Luca. Um,
Okay. Anyway, continue.
what goes on through Luca's mind on a daily basis.
Yeah, I love it.
Um, but basically, like through meditation, I was able to find that outlet. So I think it's hard to be able to have that practice you have when you get distracted, when you get, pissed off about something, when something presents itself in your life that's a trauma or something, a trigger. It's when you don't have that, like, that that core self that you've kind of created, it's hard to have that thing you do to bring yourself back. So I can it's going to be hard to abstract this out loud, but I'll do it. I've drew some pictures. I think I sent them to you if you remember way back when.
Hmm?
Um so it's kind of changed a little bit over time, back and forth some things, but essentially it's always has to do with a door. I'll be sitting in the room, and it's I at the beginning I basically was on top of this stage kind of, and there were seats in front of me, like a big auditorium full of seats, and those seats signified thoughts, and the front row is kind of what I always like came what I was more aware of, and I would see the thoughts in person form on those seats. But then it was just basically envisioning those seats being empty. That's how I was able to. That's how I was able to tell myself my mind was still. If that makes any sense. The seats are empty. My mind's still. And but then I always have this picture of this door in the back, and the door and it has these chains around it because things are want to push through. Things want to come through. Thoughts want to come through. Distraction want to come through. Anything that's distracting me wants to push through this door and get in. But it's like this constant battle of closing this door, having it stay closed, no matter what. Chains on it, stay closed. And that's kind of what I was that's kind of where I was mentally when I'm meditating. That was like my whole thing for like a year straight. When I meditated, that's what I was picturing. Keeping that room as like just that door closed the entire time. That's the only thing I focused on. And you know, then over time I started to find that that peace, I guess, or that stillness wasn't so much me fighting to keep the door closed. It was just sitting there, envisioning the door being closed, rather than things knocking at it and pissing it off. I don't know if that's a byproduct of growth, or if it's just I got tired of fucking having to keep the door closed all the time. But I don't know. But I I just found that things were a lot less chaotic, and
I got a
it all
question.
centers around that. It all centers around that. I don't know if that made any sense, but
I got a question.
yeah.
What if, theoretically speaking, you filled all the seats and opened the door? Could your mind still be still?
So as of late, I've actually envisioned myself opening the door and seeing what's on the other side. And it's weird because this is actually really deep. So in my mind, in my life, the place that triggers the most trauma is college. That's the kind of when I lost myself in college for a lot of reasons. The place that I would go to was an auditorium, a lecture hall at college. And I know the room like it's the back of my hand. I know when you walk out the door what happens. I know the stairs you take to go down to the main lobby area. I know the doors where that leads you outside. And a few times what I've done, this is as of probably the last 3 4 months, I basically allow the door to be open and see and just walk myself down and see that there's no one there. Walk down the stairs, there's nothing. Walk to see those doors at the bottom, at entrance to the building, nobody's there. Take a step outside, there's nobody. It was a good meditation. You know, it was and not, it's not always like that, but I've allowed myself to open that door, and there's nothing on the other side. At least that day it wasn't. Sometimes there's a little thing. Sometimes
Why do you think that is?
why some days are different than others.
No, no, like if you were so afraid to open the door, like what were you afraid was on the other side of the door? Like why did you want to keep it shut and then now that you opened it and there's just light?
Well, it's not the matter of now I'm just roaming around the world when I'm meditating. It's just I just travel. Um, I think it was just I don't know. I did it a few times just out of curiosity, I guess. But essentially, the practice in and of itself is keeping the door closed. It's more the significance of what the door means, what the door
But what
signifies.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's like what if you just left the door open? And like and if all the seats were filled up, does your mind still like cuz you said if there's nobody in the seats that signifies thoughts or ideas for you. So if you could fill all the
Well, no,
seats
no,
with
it's
ideas and
negative,
thoughts,
negative,
oh,
negative.
okay, I
It's
missed.
not adjust anything. Sorry, I don't know if I clarified. It's a negative thing. The seats aren't. If the seats are filled, it means there's something that's bothering me. So, I mean, I
So what if
positive
you're
thoughts.
have you ever meditated in a euphoric state like in love or super excited or anything?
Meditate on the feeling or meditated in that state.
Both, either.
Uh,
Does that is that door open? Is that door closed? Are you not in the auditorium anymore? Like
no, I've never. I can't say I've ever felt this love and wanted to meditate on that feeling. I can't say I've ever done that. Meditation has become more of a tool for me rather than something that I do out of what's the word? I meditate no matter what in the morning, obviously, so that's different. But I used to have to I used to rely on meditation for my mood. So at night to be in the right headspace to go to sleep, I'd have to meditate. And not like it's a problem, but when you don't have the time to do it, and it's actually detriment to you because you're sleeping less because you have to meditate, it actually starts to be counterintuitive. So you start to learn things, and just that's a different conversation, I guess. But I, oh, no matter what is going on, I'm still always focused on being with myself only. The goal is to be present in my mind, door closed, and be there. It's unrealistic to
So
think that things aren't going to
it's
get through
more
it.
or less of like you just want to be by yourself and alone and
Yeah,
just
it's a
experience
battle.
yeah,
Yeah.
just to not let anything else come in. All right,
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you now.
So, and when things happen where things are happening on it, so the reason I'm saying all this is because when things happen, I'm talking to the person eye to eye. It happened today. I was talking to my mom, and my thoughts just started going right, and then it's just my thing is in my mind while I'm looking the person in the eye. I'm sitting there in the back of my mind, so my eyes are open, but I'm not really looking at the person. I'm like just going through this, and is this a flaw to a certain extent? Yes, but it's almost like detaching from the conversation for 15 seconds to be able to give them my all for the rest of the conversation rather than constantly, rather than like fighting it for the whole conversation. Um, and I'm picturing just close the door, blow it away, close the door, blow it away, blow it away, door closed real quick so they can't get back in. You know what I mean? It's like it's something silly like that, but yeah, I mean, I'm not crazy. I don't know I sound nuts, but I'm a lot less crazy than I sound. I promise.
Dude, that's it. Hang on, real quick. So I was at dinner last night with a buddy, and he brought up this David Goggins quote, and he's like, we were talking about like people calling him crazy or whatever, and his response to that, he goes, I'm not crazy, I'm just not you.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I was like,
Yeah,
we
that's good.
that's where the conversation was like, we're out of here.
Yeah, that's good.
It is good, and like we just got into it, and because that's all it is, you know, I'm not crazy, I'm just not you, and that gives that's your all encompassing thought. And obviously, he spends a lot of time doing impossible tasks, so like his mental fortitude and like that is just ridiculous. But
Yeah, he's a different breed. He's someone that you could definitely admire just for he's a good example of what it's like to be able to detach yourself from the body
yeah, exactly.
and the
Like
pain.
yeah,
You can't endure what he forces himself to endure. Like one of the things that I've learned a lot from him. Not because I mean he's very barbaric the way he speaks, the way he goes about. He's very barbaric. But I've learned a lot from him, and more so in principle rather than by these things he says. But he's a human being just like anybody else. Essentially. He ran an ultra marathon with no training, with anything, nothing, before he even ran an actual marathon. He just went out and ran 100 miles. Did he almost die? Yeah, he almost died. But that's not the point. He did it. And it just it just shows what the body's capable of. It's little things like that. Am I going out and doing that? No. But to a certain extent, right? Like this summer, one of my buddies, I think I mentioned it before. He came back, said he ran a half marathon this past weekend, right? Whatever this during the summer. And I'm not gonna lie, I mean he's not the most fit person in the world. He's kind of just whatever. Played soccer in high school. That's it. And he went out and ran a half marathon. I was like, that's cool. Good for you. So he was like, yeah, man, I really recommend it. Signing up, whatever, doing it. And so I sat there. I was like, well, you have to sign up for a half marathon to go run a marathon or half marathon. So what did I do? I that Sunday, I just took a serving of honey right to my mouth, a little pre-workout. That was my pre-workout. That honey, and I just went and ran 11.3 miles, 11.2 miles, whatever it was. No, what is it?
I think it's
13.
13. I think yeah, I think it's
13.1.
13.
13.1 miles. I just went out and ran.
What was your
I
time?
did it an hour and 42. That's the most tired I've ever been in my life.
I bet.
Well, because I didn't time it right. So I didn't
Oh.
do a loop. I didn't do a loop. I'm sorry, I didn't pace it right. I didn't do a loop. I just did there and back. So I ran seven something miles there, or six some miles there, and same thing back. Well, when I got to the turn, I said, "Oh my god, I'm almost there." No, I have another whole half to go back. So you can see it on Strava. Basically, my second half, my splits were like 40 seconds faster. Like I was moving. I averaged like a 7:30 mile the entire last seven or 6.5 miles. I was moving way faster on the way there, on the way back than I was on the way there, and it was immediate. So I had 3 miles left, for example, and I felt like I couldn't even pick up my feet. But if I timed it better, that was the first time in a while that I got tired of my chest. Usually, like my legs get a little tired, and I just keep going because who cares. But I felt in my chest. That shows me like in terms of cardio wise, cardiovascular, like I was getting to like my end. Um, that was a good experience. Not an ultra marathon, so definitely not trying to
Yeah.
compare myself. Um, but yeah, he's I had a thought when you said something about David Goggins. I was gonna say it. I forgot. But with regard to meditation, I'm curious how other people like practice it. When you meditate, do you are you the kind of people that one of the people that focus on your breath only the entire practice? That's it, just your breath, or what do you how do you perceive it?
So like that's where like I'm talking about letting go. So like yeah, obviously it starts in my breath, like and that's where you're like I'll be sitting there and I'll just be breathing, and then it's like the goal is just to be aware of my thoughts and let every single one of them go. So like obviously the same thought comes up over and over again, but it's just like how do I like so yeah, I guess just like you said that blowing away, like the out through the nose takes it away, but it's just like continually just let it go, let it go. So like if it's like a thought that comes like right now, so like my goal is just to be blank minded with no thought rolling, right? And because I believe that I could like go through life like that, I believe that's presence. But like the moment a thought comes, it's just like okay, I'll let one come.
So you're saying you think that it's realistic to think you never
Oh,
have a
here
thought?
no. So like the thought came was what was the score of the basketball game? That's a distractive thought. So like the way I would combat it, I would just be like, who cares, or let it go.
Yeah.
Like or why does like so like I borderline like when the thought comes I like I try to ask it questions like so it's like I try to find the importance of the thought, why,
Yeah.
like you said the why the other day. It's like okay, so like what's the score of the basketball game that's going on right now? Well, does it matter? Do I have any influence on it? No. Like am I going to change the score? No. Like what's more important, this or the basketball score? This. So it's like okay, like where my attention needs to be here. So it's just like asking questions to figure out how to let it go, and then once you're there, you can. I mean, I need to practice that more often, but at a higher level. But we'll get there.
Yeah. I speaking
So
of the
like
why thing.
my goal
The
is to
what?
be blank. My goal in meditation is to like get to that point where like all I see is like I don't want to call it blackness, but like there's nothing running through my like there's no thought running through the forefront of my brain.
Yeah, I mean that's essentially where I'm at too. I think that's why Tally's is the person she is, because that's her on a daily basis. That's her baseline. And I don't mean that to make fun of her. She's gonna listen to this and be like, you're saying I don't think." It's like, no, not really.
No,
You
I don't
don't,
want to
but
I don't want to think.
yeah, you don't think, but I'm not saying it to her to like hurt your feelings. You think when it's necessary, but she has this unbelievable trait where she just doesn't think. Like yesterday. Here's a great example. I went to viewed an apartment yesterday, and so a lot of places up in Hoboken, New York, they they don't have like central air. This place has central heat, but no AC. So it has a central air system. So I was curious. I wonder if you can just install, if I just cover the cost of installing the AC, if it's fine, you know? Because it has the system and everything. It has the whole HVAC closet and everything. So, anyways, her dad is a very, very, very successful air conditioning guy. He has his own company in Florida and does very, very, very well. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I gotta call him. I gotta call him and ask him this because he would be the guy to know. So I'm talking to Tally after I view the place, telling her about it, seeing what she thinks. I sent her videos and stuff, and she was like, "Yeah, I can talk to my dad, whatever, about it." And I was like, "Oh, perfect." And a few minutes later, whatever, I said, like I can talk to your dad if you want, just ask him some questions. She goes, "Yeah, actually, that would be great if you don't mind doing that." And she like jumped at it, and I was like, "What? You don't want to talk to your dad?" She was like, "Well, I mean, if I don't have to think about this stuff, I won't. It'd be way better if you could just take care of it." I was like, that's the most typical you answer I've ever heard. And she started laughing because literally she just doesn't, if she can alleviate having to think about something, it's not even a thought in her mind. It's gone. That's it. It's over, done with. She'll never think about it again. And I
Yeah.
don't, it's a beautiful trait. But yeah. So
The art of
um
forgetting.
yeah. Yeah. Art of forgetting. um yeah, we're lacking
What's
that
the
department.
what's that like?
I don't, you told me something way back when, like this year. I said, "Oh man, oh my God, give me a second." You said something that you, oh my God, you said you have a hard time letting go because you have a hard time forgetting. I think you said something like that. I just
Yeah, I
regurgitated
remember
what you just
everything,
said.
so I
What did you
remember
say?
everything. I remember everything, so it's hard to forget.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, or
I think you
let
said it a
go.
lot more. You
Yeah,
said it a lot more
but
poetic. You didn't say it like that. You
it's
said it a lot more
okay.
poetically.
The I probably got it from Matthew McConaughey because this is what's coming to my mind when I was talking about it. But in Matthew McConaughey's book Green Lights, he he goes, "I didn't write to remember, I wrote to forget."
Yeah, yeah. I remember we said that. We talked about that.
Yeah, so I was like, because like, and then that's kind of like one of the books that jump started me a little bit too in this journey was that because one, it's a great book, but two, I thought about that for a long time before I even started writing,
Just
and it
forgetting.
was like, no, just I don't yeah, well, no, the whole I don't write to remember, I write to forget, and he goes into a big long story of like why he like, and it was just pretty much about presence is what like and my simplistic view of it was is like he would do something and something crazy would happen and he would write it all down and then he wouldn't have to remember it anymore because he had it all written down.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
You know what I'm
That
saying? So
resonated with me when I read it, for sure.
you read that one too?
Green lights.
Yeah.
I didn't finish it. I don't know why. I'm kind of embarrassed saying it out loud, but I don't know why I didn't finish it. But I started reading
Dude,
it.
my buddy asked me a good question last night. He's a big Peterson fan too, by the way.
Okay,
Um,
why is he not on this podcast?
because he's busy playing ball right now, but he will be. He said he'll join us for sure.
Okay.
Um, he He asked me a good question. He asked me about like what like a specific moment in my Tommy John rehab that made it like that really changed like who I was as like an inner being because like we talked about who I was when he first met me and like who I like am now and like kind of what led me and I was talked about this book called How to Listen
I remember
and
you told me about this.
yeah, so it was I'll never forget it. It was at a Barnes and Noble in Fort Myers and I was in the self-help section or business section, whichever
The
one it
for
was.
the Barnes and Nobles at the mall.
It wasn't at the mall. It was next to that Target, I think, on 6 Mile.
Oh, not the one at in Naples next to that you know what I'm
Oh, I do know what you're talking about. No, not that one.
talking
Uh, anyway, and I like kind of like I started rambling about it, and I hadn't talked about this book in a while. I actually gave it to Canarino, and I don't know what he did with it. Anyway, that's beside the that's beside the point. It's beside the point. Um, and I started talking about the book, and I was like, it actually taught me how to listen to myself more than it taught me how to listen to anybody else. And like
about.
it was like one of the things that brought me a lot of awareness because now I was no longer conversing with everybody else. I started conversing with myself.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that's either it's a beautiful place or a scary place. I don't know.
It starts off as that scary place though. Like,
Yeah.
and you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to figure why, like, who you are, who am I, and like that's where it all started,
Hmm.
and then you're down the rabbit hole of now how do I listen to other people and now how do like why and the book was great. The book was actually a fantastic book, and it's way deeper than just the simplistic of how to listen, but it goes into like different things. I don't remember. It's been a while, but it was deeply impactful because I was always the first to speak. I was always the loudest. I was always, throwing my opinions out there.
Hmm.
And like after that book, really made me rethink about who I was, who I wanted to be, and the direction I was going.
Yeah, that's good. I just heard it the other day and it kind of made me think about it, and you just brought it up. But I heard this morning, Brene Brown. You know she?
Oh yeah, I do know who she is.
Yeah. So she was talking about basically narcissists and like the way to shut them down with with one question. Right. That was the title. And basically, the way she was talking about narcissists, they think that they're right all the time. If you ask them, if you challenge them, it's not a matter of them looking internally and figuring out what they're doing wrong. It's twisting it to make yourself feel like you're the problem for asking. I mean, it's just the typical shit. But it's funny, the what she said, if you ask them why they're saying what they're saying, a lot of times you can weed out the narcissists just by doing that. I said, huh, you don't fucking say.
You needed the validation.
What she was saying was if you ask them, a narcissist, why they're doing what they're doing, what they're saying, what they're saying, you can basically get them to expose themselves to a certain extent because they have to either explain why they're doing what they're doing, which they're not going to, because typically it means that they're just going to exploit themselves. I mean, their internal reasoning most likely is to better themselves in any way possible rather than for like the collective typically. But the one thing she said though was I kind of it's interesting. She said that typically when you ask people like that why they're doing what they're doing, typically they don't have much of a thought. It's um, immediate defensiveness. So there's no thought as to why they're doing what they're doing to explain it. It's immediate defensive and throw it back on you and have you be the problem. Um, but the video is like 14 minutes long, so she talked about a lot of things. But the question of why it's been coming up a good bit as of late. Not sure why, but interesting.
Well, it's just showing up to you.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I guess you could say that. But that's that. This is our first late podcast.
What a great. Yeah, are you tired?
A little bit.
We
Gotta
need to
be up.
have like an over dinner podcast.
Yeah. Have our phone set up.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We need to do
Well,
a
I mean,
We need to do a podcast on the beach too. I feel like that's where some of our honestly in the car. I think our car provided more quality
Batmobile.
talks. It was literally a mirage. Yes.
Batmobile.
not not figuratively, but
I
literally a mirage.
I rented that car for 3 weeks for $250.
I mean, it was a golf cart.
Oh, dude, it was amazing. The
It
woman literally
was. It
told
was.
me. She said this car can't drive in the rain, you know. I said, what are you giving me? She said, I suggest you upgrade. I said, well, are you going to give it to me as a free upgrade? Because you're so concerned for my safety? She said, no. I said, okay, I'll take it.
I'll
So,
never.
but I tell you
I
what, though, we made it home perfectly fine that night. Even the night that I pulled over, we are dancing, whatever. That was in the Mapmobile, and we got home all right.
I think it was a great thing we stopped.
Yeah. Well, for my sake, or because you think it was raining too
I,
hard?
both.
It was a
Both.
great beach car, though. I'll tell you that.
Oh, phenomenal. That was excellent for that. Yeah.
Great beach
There,
car, and I had it for 3 weeks. I think I put gas in it once.
that's what I
Runs on
said. It
air.
was. That's what I said. It was literally a golf cart. it
No, it was.
wasn't.
I filled it up from empty for like $16, dude. I'm not even kidding. I don't know what this thing runs on. I think it's because it's like 500 pounds.
I think we weighed when we were both in it. We weighed more than the car.
I think if we collectively went to the side, squatted, and tried our best to pick it up,
We
we
could
would get
have.
it to budge. I don't
No,
know if
we
we
would
could
have
pick
picked.
it
We
up,
would have
but
picked. We
we
would have
would
picked
have.
it up.
I don't know, man. It's still a car. I think we would have budged it.
I don't know. That thing was that thing was an enclosed golf cart.
Yeah, we were definitely close to each other, shoulder to shoulder. It was good though.
Oh,
I
literally,
loved it.
physically,
I loved it.
mentally, yeah, we were there.
Yeah, no,
We were
100%.
one soul,
100%.
and we would argue. You can't control your thoughts. You can't control your thoughts.
Remember the time we argued and you didn't talk to me for 7 hours?
Remember
Just
that
to give
time
everyone a back.
remember that time I asked you to do one thing and you just refused to do it, and I was like, "All right, I'm over this."
I still am very. I don't even understand. I remember this. This is what my honestly, this is what my side understood from the whole situation. We're driving there. We're looking for a parking spot. I find the parking spot, and I do New Jersey. Just pull right in, cross the road. No car was coming, and I just last second turn in. Whatever. I'm in the spot within 2 seconds. Great. We're in a parking spot. You kind of got like flustered from that. I think I don't know why, and I was just happy we got a parking spot. I think you were like, I don't know what the deal was, but then we get out and then we start walking to the right. Right. We're gonna go sit down, and I don't know if the beach was ugly or what was it.
I don't really remember either, but we were arguing. We were just like,
I think you were
we
just annoyed from the
I,
parking thing. I think you were annoyed from me like just really, I mean, 90-degree turn
well, like I was like,
right
okay,
in.
let's. I was like, all right, then let's park right here, and then you wanted to walk like we or either way, either you wanted to be right there, and then one of us wanted to walk all the way down there, and I'm
Oh, no,
like,
so we were gonna go to the right, and I said it's ugly over here. Why don't we just go to the normal spot?
yeah, and then we had to hike a mile and a half.
We walked all the way to the other side of the beach, which was probably like 2,000 feet. It's not that far.
No, it was like, yeah, I don't remember. It was a pretty good walk though.
But the thing is, the houses weren't. Like, remember how nice it was where we were? We had like it kind of picked up and plateaued off. It
Yeah,
was
and that's what
nice.
I told I was like, and I think that's what I was mad about because I was like, we could have just like I was telling you where to go, and you just were like, no, I'm just I'm just not gonna
Yeah,
listen to this guy.
I
And I was
remember.
like,
I
okay, if
remember
you're not
you.
gonna,
Yeah,
I was like, if you're not gonna listen to me, I'm just not gonna speak.
yeah. Well,
And I
you didn't
think that's
speak.
where it started. And I was just like, I'm gonna see how long I can go.
That's what actually was going on.
I think, yeah. Because then it started to rain, and I knew it was gonna be a short day because I knew the weather.
What threw me for a loop, right, is we're there the whole time. You're reading, doing your thing. I tried to like make small talk, and it just didn't really go well. I felt like I was arguing with my girlfriend, and I didn't know what I did wrong. It was one of those situations. So I'm like, okay, well, if that's how he is, he's not my girlfriend. So I honestly don't give a fuck. So we're just gonna let's just enjoy this. And so we go home, whatever. I remember it started raining, and you just went onto a random house, and just sat on their porch,
Yeah.
and I remember that, and I didn't know where the fuck you went. I was like, where did this kid go? calling you, whatever. I think you didn't answer for like two times, and you answered just the third time just because you knew there was no other way home. And dude, the thing that threw me for a loop, we get back to the academy. We're walking up the stairs. You were at the stair, like you were at the floor below me, and you just go, you dab me up. Great day. See you tomorrow. And I was like, what the fuck? Like you dab me up like we had like a normal day, like we had like every other day before that. You're like, great day, brother. Talk to you tomorrow. I said, what just happened? So I'm walking up the stairs, like on my way back to the room. I'm just like, did I just envision all that? Like, was that just all my internal? Was he fine the whole time? What's going on? I was, am I the problem? So yeah, and it was never spoken of again. The next day, it was just like nothing ever happened.
Nothing
I
did
don't know.
happen.
Well, nothing did happen. Yeah, oh, exactly. There was nothing at all happened. No words, no nothing. I was so confused. I was so confused.
You know how hard it was for me not to speak? It was also like in this time I was reading this book and it was like it was literally this book was talking about not speaking for 3 days.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, dude, I wonder how hard that is. And
Well,
so,
you think if you do that, do you think you do it being around people, or do you do it like just sit at your house for 3 days?
dude, this I don't remember what the book was called, but it was like a business book, and it was like this person made up cards. It's like, hey, I'm not talking for the next 2 days or 3 days. Like they would ask him a question like, hey, like I'm actively like trying not to speak. So like they would just hand him this card that says, hey, like it would explain what's going on. I'm not like the card would be like, hey, I'm not being rude, but like for the next 3 days, I'm not speaking. I guess I should have alerted you, but like it was just like I guess it was like a little narcissistic or I don't know, tyranny or tyrant. I was just
I
like,
don't
you know
think
what,
you were.
like go
Is
ahead.
that what you were doing, actually?
I don't remember exactly, but it was just like if you're not gonna listen to me, why speak? I think that's exactly what went through my head.
But that I think you've said that that comes up every time we talk about it, and I still don't know what I wasn't listening about.
I don't know either.
I still don't know what I wasn't listening to.
I don't know
But
either, but I'm sure it had to be something.
I mean, I'm not saying you're
I
crazy.
mean,
I mean, you're
we
kind of
had,
crazy.
yeah, I am crazy. You're just not me, you know? Call me Goggins.
There you go. Yeah, just that's gonna be your saying now.
It is going to be
There's
my
no
saying
response
now.
to that. There's no response to that.
Correct.
You're nuts.
But
Well, you're just not me. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
we would like I don't want to say we argued in like a mean way, but we did have our disagreements there like every day. Like you
Always.
can't, yeah, you know. So maybe it was just one of those days. I had a bad day, and you know, you were you were just being you, and then I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna, you
Fuck
know,
this kid. Yeah.
I was like, I'm just gonna power move this and see what happens, you know.
Yeah. But it's funny too because I didn't know this about you. Obviously, I was. This is probably so within the like first month or so since we like really knew each other. So I was just like, okay, what the hell is that? But then, later on in the summer, right, we're talking with like guys at breakfast playing Catan and stuff, and you came up with conversation a good bit and just like laughing stuff, and they're like, I forget who said it. One of the guys. It was the Catan groups. It was one of those guys you can imagine, and they said, just wait for the day that he hits you. He just doesn't talk to you for just randomly. And I'm like, that happened to me. He did that to you guys too. They're like, oh, dude, he'll just get in moods. He just won't talk to you, and you have no idea what's going on. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. That makes me feel way better. It came up in conversation, but
Yeah, it happens.
need your
Anyway,
Bucharest.
I'll close this out of here, you know. So thank you for listening. First off, thank you for joining me. It's a pleasure as always, you know, conversing with you and you know diving down all my faults. I love it. It's my favorite, and
We do it.
I know we do it. So thanks for joining us. Hope you guys come back next week, and I will see you shortly.